and welcome to episode number 74 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. This is Jason Finelli, the esports and gaming insider for Fox PHL The Gambler, coming at you with a fantastic episode this week, a pair of interviews that I am very, very excited about. One with one of the longest names in esports history, and another, honestly, one of the most unique interviews I have ever done. I can honestly say there is nothing like the interview I've done in the second segment, only because it's a subject that I have never talked about before here on Cheesesteaks and Controllers. So it's a one-of-a-kind interview that I think you'll really enjoy. Both of them are very, very good interviews. Don't get me wrong. Both of the interviews you will hear on this episode tonight are awesome. But that one in particular, the second one, may catch you by surprise. But before we get into any of those, let's talk about the 6 in 60 seconds. Esports organization Panda Global and Nintendo have announced an officially licensed Super Smash Bros. Competition circuit in both Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Smash Bros. Melee, scheduled to take place in 2022. The Halo Championship Series returns with Halo Infinite's surprise multiplayer launch earlier this week, with the first major tournament of the HCS slated for December 17. Warner Bros. Has fully unveiled Multiverses, a Smash Bros. Style platform fighter starring characters from DC Comics, Cartoon Network, and more for release in 2022. A damning Wall Street Journal report alleges that Activision CEO Bobby Kotick was aware of harassment and abuse allegations within the company, even defending one of the accused. Riot Forge surprise launches Ruined King, a League of Legends story, and Hextech Mayhem, while also providing new updates on Convergence and Song of Nunu. And finally, Jeff Keighley has announced the nominees for the 2021 Game Awards, with Arcane Studios' Deathloop leading all other games with 9 nominations. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. And as always, the 6 in 60 seconds are brought to you tonight by the sponsor of Cheesesteaks and Controllers. That is Ghost Shaver. The Ghost Shaver is designed to feel like an extension of your arm, allowing the user to reach anywhere on the head, face, or body. The precision cutting system gives a close and smooth shave every single time, thanks to 5 rotary flex action super thin blades and a patented handle design that fits into the palm of your hand precisely. Go to ghostshaver.com and get yours. That is Ghost Shaver, a shave above the rest. Yes, folks, those are your 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Big week in video games and esports between Halo's surprise release, Ruined King's surprise release, the Activision Blizzard scenario. There's a lot going on, a lot to talk about. Too much to talk about, to be honest. It was one of those weeks where you think it's going to be a slow week leading up to the holidays, and then it just isn't. And there's always things to talk about in video games. But this week in particular, I feel like was loaded, which is never a bad thing. But let's move on now to the first segment of the show this evening. I have a fantastic interview lined up for you. If we're going to talk about veterans of the esports industry, then the name Mike Sepso has to be in that pantheon. He is currently the CEO of Vindex. He is a founding figure in Esports Engine, which is running the HCS, the Halo Championship Series. We'll get into that. And he, lucky for me, is joining me right now on the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast. Mike, how the heck are you today?
I am well. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Happy to be speaking to you now. So let's get into a little bit of your career in esports. You've been around a very long time. Where did that start? Where did Mike Sepso get his start in the esports world?
I think I got my start like a lot of people did a long time ago, which was just through playing. In my case, it was pretty clear right away that I was never going to be a real competitor. But I did love playing competitively. And, you know, with my best friend and business partner, Sundance DiGiovanni, was back in summer of 2002 playing a lot of the original Halo CE multiplayer on the original Xbox, and finding ways to find other people online to play with and throwing LAN parties in our apartments and, you know, betting people on games and, you know, friendly kind of stuff like that. And that got really competitive. And what we realized was even when we were playing, we thought we were pretty good at the time. People were kind of coming over and watching, and it got kind of exciting. I'm sure most people have done that in their houses, either playing Madden or Call of Duty or Halo, whatever it is. Everybody's kind of watching. You're trash talking each other and everything. That's kind of what we were doing, and realized there's a lot of people interested in this, and we thought, hey, if we like this and we like sports, we kind of understand traditional sports and digital media, can we combine those worlds together and put it together into something? And then we started doing research. We realized this was a thing that was already kind of advanced in South Korea, but in a very different kind of style and format than we thought would work for a US or a larger Western audience.
Hmm.
So we kind of just took that kernel of knowledge, we applied it to what we thought. And in South Korea at the time, it was people playing StarCraft on PCs against each other one on one. Game was hard to understand. It wasn't that big here. And we thought this would be more of a kind of living room approach versus a hardcore PC approach. And we launched MLG as a console league because that was the kind of more mainstream and predominant platform for playing video games on at the time. And that was really it. That was the kernel of the idea, and then we just did it. And frankly, we had no business trying to do this. We didn't have permission from the publishers to do it. We didn't had never worked in the video game industry. I don't even think we knew anybody that worked in the video game industry. We also realized that the whole video game industry existed on the West Coast, and we were New Yorkers. And so, but we just did it, and eventually, it grew into MLG.
Yeah, I remember watching MLG competitions being like, wow, people are actually playing video games in a studio setting as if it were a sport that I've been watching my entire life. And I remember bringing it up to my parents and being like, why didn't you let me play? Why didn't you let me keep pursuing this?
Yeah, look, it's one of those things where it's like you sort of create this business that turns into, it's sort of a phenomenon on its own that the players and the fans kind of control in many respects. And it had a life of its own very quickly. And I remember several times in the early days, 2004, 2005, kind of sitting back and looking at these giant rooms we were filling with people and TV cameras and everything going on and saying, man, I wish I had this when I was 16 years old. This would have been amazing. Um, so that was kind of it. And look, Sundance and I both grew up as child athletes, playing in high school and everything, and then big sports fans. So it was a sort of easy thing for us to understand how to present video game competition as sports. And we, obviously from the name MLG to the branding, the whole style of how we organized and broadcast everything, the concept was, make it look as close to NFL, NBA, ESPN as you could, and really focus on kind of telling the stories of the competitors and the competition itself. Presented in I think what we used to say was like, let's take this competitive stuff, like the stuff that's going on in South Korea, but let's make the beer and chicken wings version of that. Like,
Yeah.
what's the thing that people are going to want to watch and trash talk friends and become fans and really kind of get passionate about it. And so that was our take on it. I think that's what we did more successfully than anybody else, which is probably why we were much more successful from that point of view.
I love that. The beer and chicken wings focus of esports. That is fantastic. So how has the landscape changed? Obviously, it's much different now than it was back in those days, of the days of beginning of MLG. What do you think is the biggest change of the landscape in esports between when you brought MLG to the forefront and now, where it seems like you can watch a different esports competition every single day?
Well, I would say it's a few different things. I'll give you, I would say the fan perspective of it is we just now have a whole generation of gamers who have grown up with esports always existing, right? So for the first generation of esports fans, you're trying to explain it to people, and it was difficult to understand. But if you're 20 today, MLG existed in your entire life. Um, in publisher run leagues have been a thing for half your life almost. Like it's just there's more of it, and so you're not. It's sort of an accepted thing. When we started MLG, we did a lot of trying to explain, like, look, this is just like sports. Forget about the fact that it's video games and you think that's nerdy or something that basement dwellers do. Like, everybody does it. They just don't talk about it. And the minute you watch, a game of Halo, a game of Call of Duty, whatever it is, you're gonna love it. And that's kind of what took off. So from the fan perspective, I think it's sort of an aging in, right? It's just been around. I mean, we started MLG in 2002.
True.
It's been around for a long time, so it's a little easier and more accepted today. On the, I think what's really driven the massive adoption and investment in it, though, is really driven by a fundamental and radical change in the core business model of the video game industry. And, a good way to describe that is 5 years ago, 80% of all of the global video game industry revenue was generated the traditional way. You buy a game for $65, and that adds up number of unit sales to many billions of dollars. In 5 years, that has flipped. So where 5 years ago, 80% of the revenue was generated that way, like a unit sale, 80% of revenue now, probably more than 80% of revenue this year, will be generated in-game through free-to-play games. So think about what that does to a business, right? This is as transformational for the video game industry as, streaming is for television, or, Spotify or Napster before it was for the music business. We're getting to a point where the last holdouts of the model are the AAA premium titles, the Call of Duties, Maddens, FIFAs, etc. But that's kind of the last group of games that are still kind of holding on to that business model. And even those games have elements of them that are free to play, and the publishers are playing around with that. So that's a massive shift in the core business model of what is nearly a $200 billion a year industry.
That's true. Shoot.
And so you can't use the same old marketing and retail tactics to sell in-game items that you did to sell unit sales on opening weekend, right? It's a whole different approach. Well, one of the things that drives long-term engagement in games and gets people interested in buying skins and other kinds of in-game content is esports. If you have a professional esports league that people are fans of and interested in, it not only drives gameplay in the game, it drives people wanting to buy in-game content. It also helps create a whole ecosystem of content creators around it and fans. And so you're basically saying, instead of just focusing, like a movie on opening weekend and trying to sell as many units as possible, now you have to release the game and create lots of reasons for people to stay engaged and keep playing it. And the number one way you do that, obviously, is make a great game and keep updating it. But the way that you keep people focused on it, and the way that you kind of stand out from the crowd in this really complex and busy attention economy, is you have to create a really robust content ecosystem. And professional and amateur esports is absolutely the number one proven way to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to have a game that stresses in multiplayer and competitive multiplayer, and you want to keep people in it, you got to give them something to aspire to. Back in our day, when we were just playing Halo at LAN parties in our friends' basements because we could. Now, just to give an example, Booga, who the Fortnite world champion, taking home $3 million just because he's really good at a free-to-play shooter game. It is definitely a different dynamic there. I definitely see where you're coming from in that regard. But I do want to get into something that you guys are working on right now. Speaking of free-to-play esports, Halo Infinite shocked us all, bringing out the Halo Infinite multiplayer this week. Might not have shocked you because you're working on the Halo Championship Series. You might have been a little in the know there. But HCS is back as well, powered by your esports engine. So talk to me a little bit about this new HCS and what your plans are for the immediate future, starting with the first major in Raleigh, going into 5-10 years from now, however long this new HCS lasts.
Yeah, well, look, I can tell you kind of what we're doing now. I would have to leave the sort of long-term vision to our partners at Microsoft a little bit. But look, here's what we're excited about. We got to work directly with 343, the Microsoft studio, really for the past couple of years, while they were continuing to develop the game and think about the overall landscape. we were partnering with them to develop the entire global approach to how the esports ecosystem would work. And one of the great parts was they really sort of think of us as an extension of the team, as true partners, strategic global partners in that operation. And so we had a very direct hand in designing how the ecosystem would work. I think you'll see from their own kind of social posts and marketing, and even the registration site for HCS, they really wanted the fans to know that Esports Engine was there in a close partner, and that there was a lot of history with the game franchise, with Microsoft Games, with 343, between the people behind Vindex and Esports Engine, um, in the game, the franchise, and the studio. And so I think all of that weaved itself well into what we think will be kind of a perfectly designed system for Halo fans. And right out of the gate, I think the Raleigh Major team pass is sold out in 20 minutes or so. Um,
It's amazing.
and all of the posts from everybody from the old MLG pros who were the first generation Halo superstars, all the way to all the new kids playing. I think everybody kind of loves the approach that everything was well thought out and designed, and it could all be announced at once. And you kind of have this big, well thought through ecosystem that's going to be operated really effectively. Um, we're excited about it. We also were able to really stretch our software development muscles too. And so if you've signed up for the HCS, you did it through a software platform that we created inside of Vindex and the esports engine that we're very proud of and going to continue to build on over time as well.
So your hands are all over this thing, at least in the early going. And it's very cool that they're putting you at the forefront, considering that connective tissue, like you said, the history between the folks who are running the esports engine, such as yourself, and the franchise Halo, that MLG pedigree really coming through, and especially in how they are advertising you to be a part of it. And that's pretty cool. I think it's well deserved as well. You've been doing this for how long now, starting with MLG and getting into this new HCS. That actually leads me to another question about the way that leagues are structured now and the way that leagues are thought out. When it comes to an esports or a league, if you're wanting to start a league in a game, there are two modes of thought as far as the teams in the league at the moment. There are leagues where the esports organizations themselves are at the forefront. So instead of, they're called FaZe Clan, they're called E United, they're called, Damwon Gaming for League of Legends and Rainbow Six Siege, for example. Or there are leagues like Call of Duty League and Overwatch League, where there are teams based in cities, still owned and operated by the organizations that run esports, like Atlanta FaZe Clan in the Call of Duty League, or Optic Texas, the new merger between Optic and Envy down there in Texas. So, which do you think is better for like a long-term esports strategy if you're building a brand new league from the ground up? I personally think that getting the city allegiance can boost your league up just a little bit, but I also understand if the brands want to stay their brands. Where do you fall on this?
Well, I was largely responsible for the city-based franchise system model, so obviously I'm biased towards. But honestly, I would say it really depends on the game. At the end of the day, it depends on the game, the community, and what the business objectives of the publisher are with regard to esports, right?
Okay.
A lot of publishers think of esports as the best type of community engagement that you can create, and the whole objective is to just really create a great experience for fans of the game and drive them back in to play more and buy more in-game content and things like that. So in that scenario, if that's the objective, you can take a more decentralized approach. You can sort of let communities and organizations develop more organically. But if you're in the Activision model, for instance, the objective there when I got there in 2015 to design the system was, how do we create a sports media business out of this? Not just the objective wasn't sell more copies of Overwatch or Call of Duty. It was, how do we design a system that will live and breathe on its own, become its own thing, monetize itself, and be able eventually to compete with the likes of the NBA and traditional sports and things like that.
Okay.
And so it depends is the answer. I also love the city-based franchise system because I think it is the most successful model in all traditional sports, right? It's hard to imagine an NBA without the Knicks and the Lakers and the Celtics and the city associations. I'm a lifelong Yankees fan. Sorry, I know you're a Philly guy, but like love the Yankees. And but think about it, like what would Philly be without the Eagles, right? Like how do you not
Happy.
get so hyped up about that? So it's a super successful model, and a lot of my career in esports has been trying to get like super core esports people, people that work in the space or just fans, to think a little bit differently. And what I mean is, so much of esports for the first decade plus that it was around was completely controlled by fans and outsiders like us at MLG, or Ralph and Jens at ESL, and all of these other people that were really sort of creating this whole world outside of the industry. So it sort of created in its own models, and it used different things, but all of that was reactive to what you could do or couldn't do. And I think once I got the opportunity to say, you can do whatever you want with these games. Like, what's the perfect system? Well, you don't have to recreate the world. There's really good models for how traditional sports works. The NBA, the NFL are perfect examples. The EPL and most of the major European football leagues are great examples. Like, imagine EPL, without Manchester, right? Like how do you disassociate these massive team franchises from their cities? It's really difficult. And so I think that's a great model for a type of platform that needs to kind of be super long term and live and breathe on its own and have its own monetization engine and things like that. I also think, for the right team organizations, it's very powerful. For teams like Envy or Andbox and NYXL in New York, it gives those teams the opportunity to focus all of their attention on a market. So you're not competing for attention with the whole world. Andbox and NYXL that are competing for attention in the New York market. Envy is got a lock on Northern Texas, right? Envy's done an incredible job. They have a esports beat writer for the Dallas Morning News that covers everything that they're doing on the sports pages. You get that out of focus and clear execution within a finite area. And that's why, while I love the Yankees, I also love the Knicks. And the Knicks are still popular and sell out games all the time, even though, our championship traction is not very good.
You could say that.
So you know what I mean? Like, it just gives staying power, it gives focus, it gives execution power. So I honestly think all of these models will have different types of success, and different games will apply different models. That's a big part of what we do, is try to pick the right model and fit it to the right community, the right game, the right publisher strategy. And there's multiple that can be successful. But I do really, really look. I love rooting for New York. Right? Mm-hmm. It's my home. I've lived there almost my entire life. I love all New York sports and esports, so it makes sense to me. And I think it will help broaden the appeal of esports in general, because there's a lot of people in the New York market who will root for any New York team. I've never really liked hockey, but the Rangers make it to the postseason. I'm a huge Rangers fan, right? I want them to win. Same thing I think will happen for gaming.
No, I'm with you on that. I feel like, like you said, the city allegiance is huge, especially in a city like New York and like Philadelphia. To answer your question about what would Philadelphia be without the Eagles, the answer is a lot nicer. That's the answer.
Probably true, yeah.
So one more question for you before we get you out of here. We talked a little bit about the past and the present of esports. Where do you see it progressing from here? What, in your vision, having been in this in so long, is what the industry needs in order to continue on its upward trajectory, even maybe equaling or, in a perfect world, surpassing the current major sports leagues that are out right now? That's a tall task, I know that. But what do you think the esports industry needs to do in order to really ascend to the higher levels?
Look, I think from our perspective, where I try to focus, the 300 people throughout Vindex in our different divisions, is we have to create value every day for our publisher partners whose games we're utilizing or helping build, and for the fans. If we're not creating value for the fans and the publishers, then it's going to get out of whack, and you're not going to continue to get the investment in it. And the way you create value for the publishers is you help them build reliable and strong businesses that attract big audiences and keep them engaged. And the way you do that for fans is you just make sure that everything that you're doing is going to be authentic and true to the community and competitive and entertaining. At the end of the day, this is all, whether we're talking about, baseball, basketball, or Call of Duty or FIFA, what you're really talking about is entertainment. And you got to keep people entertained. And I think if we continue to do that, then the only other component of this, the only other dimension, is time. And, traditional sports didn't get wildly popular, in 10 or even 20 years. I'm old enough to have lived in a time where, basketball games were on tape delay. There was NBA games that weren't live. There was, until ESPN got really big, people didn't even really talk about sports as a national topic until the postseason. And so, that's within my lifetime, and I'm pretty old for esports, but I'm not that old. And so I think it just takes, sports grows and audiences grow, especially when you're creating city allegiances and new leagues and things like that. They grow in decades, not years. And sometimes we want these things to grow as if they're technology platforms or social media or things like that. And you get elements of that. You get big bursts and people getting excited and lots of attention. But you don't, you can't expect all of this to kind of like be huge overnight. It takes time. Like we talked about very early on in the conversation, there's a lot of people that are, in their 20s now that have just always had esports around as a thing in their lifetimes. We're starting to get to the point where, people that went to very early MLG events are now bringing their kids to new esports events or watching Twitch together with, it's like that kind of generational stuff has to happen. And then you'll start to really see those allegiances build, and you get much bigger audiences, and the whole thing gets bigger.
I agree with that, and I can't wait for it to happen, and I have a feeling that you will continue to be at the forefront of it no matter where this crazy industry ends up. Mike, thank you so much for your time. Look for the HCS coming up soon with Esports Engine powering everything Halo Championship Series. I'm very, very grateful to have had this time to speak with you today. Good luck with everything in the future, and I hope that we get to talk again soon.
Thanks, Jason. Really nice talking to you.
Yes, folks, moving right along here on today's installment of Cheesesteaks and Controllers. When I first started this podcast 74 episodes ago, if you had asked me the things that I would be talking about on my show, obviously video games, esports, Philly local tournaments, things like that, League of Legends would definitely be on there. But if there was one topic I would not have guessed, it would be the art of something I admittedly love very much, chocolate. And thanks to Arcane, the League of Legends Netflix show, and a partnership between Riot and Compartes Chocolatier, here we are talking about chocolate and League of Legends. And I have with me the head chocolatier of Compartes. His name is Jonathan Grahm, and we are going to talk about these excellent chocolate bars. Jonathan, how are you today?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm so excited to talk about these amazing, super selling, super delicious chocolate bars that are just causing a sensation around the internet.
I'm glad to hear that. I've had a little bit of a taste of each one, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of each one as we get started here. But first, I want to talk a little bit about how you got into the chocolatiering business. This would be the first time I would ever get a chance to talk to anybody in this line of work about it. So I am very interested into how, your career path, when you decided to take this role. How did your career in being a chocolatier begin?
I've been making chocolate since I was about 15. And, I love chocolate. I think chocolate is a medium that everyone loves. It's like you never really meet somebody that doesn't like chocolate. And if they don't like chocolate, you're kind of like, huh? It's like not liking, dolphins. So chocolate is something that everyone loves. And I had such a passion for chocolate and dessert and food. So I started working actually as an apprentice when I was 15 at Compartes. It's been in business since 1950. Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra,
Wow.
yeah, Marilyn Monroe, the Kennedys used to shop there. So it's got this really rich history to it. And I just started in the back in the shipping department, then helping customers. And then I started playing around with the recipes and creating my own stuff. And then, I could talk about this for hours, but basically, push came to shove, and I kept creating more and more new flavors and new recipes, and then like a lot of magazines started to take interest, and I didn't have any culinary training. I was just sort of mixing things together in the back kitchen that I loved. Fast forward, almost 10 years, I actually bought the business when I was about 24 years old. I'm now 36, so about 12 years ago. And I basically kept the name the same, Compartes, and the history, but I changed the recipes, and I changed the branding, and I really turned it into this chocolate company that can do partnerships with Riot Games, that works with, all the top fashion brands. And, our chocolates are sold at Nordstrom. They're sold at J. Crew sometimes. We've got 2,000 retailers across the United States that carry our chocolate. And we've really created this chocolate company that mixes art, design, style, fashion, and really pop culture is a big part of this chocolate company that I've created.
So getting into the business by basically just being a chocolate alchemist makes a lot of sense for something like League of Legends, which has to do a lot with alchemy and magic.
Oh, yeah. And this collaboration is so magical to begin with, from the flavors, the designs of the packaging. But that's really something that Compartes is known for. And, one thing that I really like to do is something that I call gourmet nostalgia. So I take a lot of treats and flavors and things that I loved as a kid, things that our generation loves, and I turn them into like elevated versions of themselves. So if it's a good humor strawberry shortcake ice cream that I got at the ice cream truck, I'm doing a gourmet version with farmers market strawberries, homemade shortbread in our strawberry shortcake bar. So I think there's really a lot of levels to what we do, which is not only the design component, but the flavor component, and really elevating things that people are sort of used to and flavors that they know and love, but turning them into like a gourmet experience and into magic, really.
Man, I am really regretting the fact that I am having this interview before lunch. Really not a smart decision on my part. So let's get into a little bit of how you were able to connect with Riot Games. So where did the idea come from? Who approached who? And how long has this deal really been going before this chocolate was released?
So with Riot Games, they actually called us and said they wanted to collaborate with us because we're known for doing all these kind of out-of-the-box collaborations. And again, it's kind of, they're thoughtful, right? So we didn't take the League of Legends characters or the Arcane characters and slap their face on an M&M or a Crunch Bar. We've actually developed, through months and months of working together, flavor profiles, design, and this bar was really thought out. Well, there's two bars that were really thought out to live in the world of League of Legends. And the idea was being able to take the game and have it, IRL, in real life, and be able to eat the flavor that the character would be eating, and living in this world of Arcane, where I believe they had two different sort of realms or worlds that the flavors are inspired by, besides for the fact that they're inspired by Jinx and Victor. So, we were really thinking through what that meant. What is a Riot Compartes collaboration? What does that look like? And it did take us a long time to come to this really amazing iteration that you've seen here now on the market.
So I want to get into the bars a little bit too. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of samples. I got one sample for each one. I want to start with the Vault Breaker, the one for V. It says on the back here, a punch of sea salt, the shimmer of gold, and the bitter dark that hides infinite potential within. Knock 'em out and leave 'em wanting more. This is, by all definitions, dark chocolate. 73% cacao in this thing. It is a dark chocolate fan's dream bar. What went into the deliberations in order to make this the flavor associated with the character of V, and what also the gold flecks? Walk me through the reasoning for that little extra bit of flair. I really like that.
So the gold flecks are actually inspired by the world that V lives in Arcane, which is supposed to be this more upscale, fancy world, versus the Jinx bar that we'll talk about in a moment. That world is more of a street world, so that's based on graffiti and things like that. So we did this swirl of like a tie-dye, but the other bar with the gold flecks is really supposed to represent upscale and sort of this different type of fantasy world that's a juxtaposition and very different from the world of Jinx. In terms of it being dark, salty, I think that we've seen a lot of fans tweeting about the saltiness, the darkness of this bar. It's also really interesting because Haley Steinfeld, who is the voice on the Arcane show of that character, is also a huge Compartes fan. So that was really, small world to bring her into the mix of this, and she's so excited about the bars as well. But it was really fun for us, again, to develop those flavors, and also the packaging. We went through so many versions of the packaging, and I thought it was really important that we show the characters on the packaging itself, not only the world, but really putting those recognizable faces that all the League fans would know when they saw that bar. This is, the Arcane chocolate bar. And one thing I want to tell you, you are lucky to have the samples because we actually sold out of the bars. We've just got a new drop that's coming out right now, so when you hear this, it will not be sold out anymore, but these bars, it was incredible. I think within 8 or 10 hours, we sold out of everything we had. And the people at Riot Games kept telling me the rioters are going to buy so many and, you're going to sell out. And I didn't really know very much about this universe until I started working with them. And they were right. It was an incredible response. People were lined up at our door outside of our chocolate factory on the day they came out.
So yes, if there is one thing you'll learn about working in the gaming industry, I imagine this will not be your only foray if you can help it. I imagine you're going to try and do another partnership, especially with how successful this one is. There is nothing more loyal than a video game fan. So that rioters had come out in droves to get these bars does not surprise me one bit. Got to be a good feeling though, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's an amazing feeling, and the response has been so great on the internet and on seeing on Twitter and Reddit and things like that. And again, that's because we didn't, I think, some credit goes to Riot for this. They didn't just go for some mass market partnership because Riot is big enough to go with a crunch bar. But they came to us. We're a boutique, handmade, artisanal, small business chocolate factory. And it wasn't for them about, just slapping their face on a product. It was about a very intentional, thoughtful chocolate that rioters and Riot fans and League fans are really responding to because those flavors and the designs really talk to who those characters are, that they've been playing this game for years and they know and love those characters. So I think that is another reason why it's become so successful. It's just really special.
Yeah, and I can see now, having watched the first couple episodes of Arcane, I did the first 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have not watched as of this recording. I hope to have that done by the time the episode comes out. I could definitely see both in the packaging, like you mentioned, and in the bars themselves, the juxtaposition between these two characters. There's definitely a lot of thought put into this that can be appreciated even if you're not a fan of the games or the franchise or anything like that. It's just there's a lot of love in these chocolate bars, both in the chocolate portion and in the making it seem like it's part of that League of Legends world. So I can see exactly where you're coming from. Let's get into the Flame Chompers, which is my preferred of the two. Nothing against dark chocolate, but having tasted both of these, I am a big fan of this Flame Chompers one, which is interesting because I am not a fan of tea. Like, tea is just not my thing. So to see matcha green tea being put into this is very surprising to me. Walk me through the process of how a matcha green tea chocolate and strawberry chocolate swirled together with a unique and gorgeous chocolate bar that is sure to delight. How did this come about?
That's a great question. I love matcha green tea Kit Kats, and we have some Compartes stores in Japan. And I actually had the matcha green tea Kit Kats years ago, and it made me fall in love with matcha chocolate. I don't like drink matcha tea. I'm not actually a huge tea drinker, but matcha with white chocolate is like this amazing combination that's so unexpected, and it's so delicious. So when we were talking with Riot about this flavor and this graffiti world and sort of street and I was right away, I said, I want to do like a swirl of matcha and strawberry that's colorful, that's really special. It's almost like a tie-dye, and the chocolate is hand swirled. And let me tell you something. I actually am the one that's swirling every single bar. Wow. Compartes is such a small business that even though I'm the owner and I also am doing the shipping on a lot of the League of Legends bars that people are buying, I'm also swirling the bars because I love doing that, and it's part of the art. And each single one is different because they're hand swirled. So you have this beautiful green tea white chocolate, and then you have that bright pink strawberry-infused chocolate. They kind of get swirled together, and then you have this really great strawberry green tea flavor profile. And I think this bar is probably one of the best bars we've ever made. It's just amazing.
It is very, very good, and I can definitely. I'm gonna take a little piece right now, just because I just want to take a look at this here. There's the swirl there. Yeah, it is an amazing bar to behold. I would say though, be careful getting it out of the packaging because I wasn't very careful and it came out in two pieces. But you can still see the texture, you can still see the swirl, you can still see all of that craftsmanship in there. Very, very aesthetically pleasing looking bar. And then when you actually eat it, it definitely the taste fits the look, if you understand what I mean by that. So let me ask you now that Compartes has its first gaming partnership under its belt, Riot obviously had a lot of hands-on approach to this. Would you work in the gaming industry again? And if so, is there a particular franchise or company or name that you would like to maybe partner with in the future?
Absolutely. I would definitely work on it again. And Riot has been incredible. I mean, I talked to them so many times. I spoke with them yesterday. They've been so open and welcoming to me and bringing me and my company into this, League universe and the Riot universe. And like I said, for them, it wasn't about, dollars. It was about creating a really purposeful, cool product that the fans would really love. So I definitely would work with Riot again. I'm loyal that way. Like when somebody works with me the first time, I think about, this is my person. So I feel like we will do some more stuff in the future. And, I don't know what that is yet. I can't say too much about it, but this has been an extreme success. And like I said, it's sold out so quickly because people are also thinking about holidays, right? I mean, we're in November. You're thinking about holiday gifts. This $9.95 chocolate bar is the most amazing stocking stuffer for people. You have gamer friends. You're a gamer yourself, League friends, whatever. This is something that's really special, and you can't actually get it in anywhere besides our website. So that's something else that makes it truly unique and special. You can't walk into a Target or Walmart and buy this item. So I think that is another reason why it sold so quickly. I'm sure this new drop, we're taking pre-sales, and it was, I think it's like 80% sold out already. Wow. Even Riot is trying to get more bars from me, and I'm trying to make them fast. And they're just selling faster than I can make them. So I'm incredibly happy about it. And like I said, Riot has been amazing. So I'm sure more stuff in the pipeline with Riot.
That is a great idea if you need a stocking stuffer for your the gamer in your life, whether they play League of Legends or not, honestly. I am not exactly the biggest League of Legends expert, but these are a great compliment to any gamer, like you said. And if other fans of other Riot franchises are listening, let Riot know you want those Valorant chocolate bars, you want those Legends of Runeterra chocolate bars, and maybe those will happen in the future. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time and for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your expertise with me. These chocolate bars are fantastic, and I can't wait to see what you and Riot or whichever gaming company you partner with next comes up with in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the chocolate. Thank you.
Finally tonight, we're going to revisit one of the stories I talked about in the 6 and 60 seconds. No, it is not the Activision Blizzard story, though I do very much want to talk about that. I think I'll save it for next week. Now, we're going to talk about something a little bit lighter to end the show this week, and that is the 2021 Game Awards nominees. Earlier this week, Jeff Keighley took to a live stream to announce all of the nominees for all of the categories in the 2021 Game Awards, slated for December the 9th. And I'm going to go through each event, each category right now, list the nominees, and who I think is going to win, if I have an opinion on that category. And that's how we'll close things out this week. So let's begin with the best esports event of the year. That would be the 2021 League of Legends World Championship, the PGL Major Stockholm 2021, PUBG Mobile Global Championship 2020, the International 2021, or Valorant Champions Tour Stage 2 Masters. I think Riot is going to win this category, but I'm not sure if it's going to be for the League of Legends World Championships or for Valorant Champions Tour Stage 2. I'm leaning League of Legends, but we will see. Best esports coach, we have Silent, ENGH, Blade, Crowder, and Coma. I really have no thought on this one at all. I think Coma might be a good choice because, you know, Damn One Gaming is one of the best that there is, but I really don't have an opinion on that one. We will hold off there. Best esports team, Atlanta FaZe, Damn One Gaming Kia, Natus Vincere, Sentinels, or Team Spirit. I think Team Spirit should win this because the come-from-behind underdog story that they employed to win the $18 million first prize at the International is worthy of the award, but this being a panel or a jury that is very heavy Western, I do think Atlanta FaZe are going to take this one. They also did win the Call of Duty League, so that does help. Best esports athlete, Simp, Showmaker, Collapse, Simple, or Tens. Again, Simp, Atlanta FaZe is where I would lean here, though Simple and Tens would also get my consideration. Best esports game, Call of Duty, CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, or Valorant. I think League of Legends continues to win this one, though Valorant is definitely on the rise. Might be a reason to consider that as well. I would vote League of Legends if I was on the jury, however. Content Creator of the Year, Dream, Fusely, Gauls, Ebi, and the Grevd. I'm going to echo the sentiment of many tweets that I saw when this was announced and simply say, who? The only two people I know here are Dream because he faked a speed run, and the Grefk because he revealed a Fortnite skin. Otherwise, no idea who these people are. So good luck, and whoever wins, good for you. Innovation and Accessibility, Far Cry 6, Forza Horizon 5, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and The Veil, Shadow of the Crown. All of these games have great accessibility options, but I'm going to lean towards The Veil because it is a game that you don't have any vision for. You have to use your hearing, you have to use spatial sound, you have to listen to what's around you and play the game that way. So I think that should be the winner as it's the most unique out of all of them. Again, they all had great accessibility options, but I think The Veil, just for its unique gameplay out of the jump, like it's how you play the game, gives it the nod there. Most anticipated game, Elden Ring, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or Starfield. My personal one is the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. However, I think Elden Ring is going to win this one for the second year in a row. I think they won it last year, right? I'm pretty sure. Best multiplayer, Back 4 Blood, It Takes Two, Knockout City, Monster Hunter Rise, New World, or Valheim. While I would like to see Valheim, a small indie success, win this award, I actually think it's going to be It Takes Two. It Takes Two is tied for second with the most, for most nominated, tied for third, with 5, I believe. Or tied for second with 5. That's what it is. Sorry. So I expect this to win in a few different areas, best multiplayer being one of them. Best sim or strategy, we have Age of Empires 4, Evil Genius 2, Humankind, Inscription, or Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have heard incredible things about Inscription, but I don't think enough people played it to push it over the hump. I think it's actually going to be Age 4 winning this one. Although Flight Simulator has a chance, but that game technically came out last year. It launched on consoles this year, but it technically came out in 2020. So I ain't having that. Best sports or racing games: F1 2021, FIFA 22, Forza Horizon 5, Hot Wheels Unleashed, or Riders Republic. Great to see Hot Wheels among the nominees, but this is Forza Horizon 5's category. No ifs, ands, buts, or coconuts. They're winning this one. It's just that simple. Best family game: It Takes Two, Mario Party Superstars, New Pokemon Snap, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, or WarioWare Get It Together. My vote would be for Super Mario 3D World because I played it with my family, aka Olivia, my daughter. But again, I think It Takes Two wins this one as well for its focus on cooperative play. Best fighting game: we have Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, The Hinokami Chronicles, Guilty Gear Strive, Melty Blood Type Lumina, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. Once again, continuing the trend of if you want a quick Game Awards nomination, all you have to do is produce a medium to high profile fighting game, because only 5 of those come out a year and they all get nominated by default. My winner here is Guilty Gear Strive by leaps and bounds. I think that's who's going to win this one here, though Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl might have a slight chance, would have had a better chance if it had voice acting, but that's just me. Best role-playing: Cyberpunk 2077, Monster Hunter Rise, Scarlet Nexus, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and Tales of Arise. A lot of people were upset that Cyberpunk is in this category, but it didn't make the cutoff last year, so whatever. I think the vote is going to go to Tales of Arise, with Shin Megami Tensei being a dark horse in that category. Best action-adventure: Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village. This is a tough one. This is a very, very tough category to call. There are a lot of really, really, really good games here, and a lot of media darlings, which tend to get a bit of a leg up in this just because of how the makeup of the jury is. My heart says Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, but my head says Psychonauts 2. Because I think that Psychonauts 2 is a more received critical acclaim sort of game, as it were. Guardians of the Galaxy is more like a fan or a gamer sort of favorite, which is weird to say. It's not that it's not a media it's not that it's not a critical success. It reviewed well. I just feel like Psychonauts 2 has more of an edge with the voting jury, whose votes carry a little more weight. Best action: Back 4 Blood, Chivalry 2, Deathloop, Far Cry 6, and Returnal. I think this is the first of Deathloop's big wins. Game is absolutely phenomenal. Anybody you talk to about it loves every second of it. Unique mechanics, Arcane's trademark gameplay, amazing game. So Deathloop wins that one. Best VR/AR: Hitman 3, I Expect You to Die 2, Lone Echo 2, Resident Evil 4, Sniper Elite VR. I think this one's going to go to Resident Evil 4 because it's a classic game, one of the best of all time, and it was flawlessly implemented into virtual reality, and I think that's going to give it a leg up. Best mobile game: Fantasian, Genshin Impact, League of Legends Wild Rift, Marvel Future Revolution, or Pokemon Unite. This is actually a very strong category. If you're a mobile player, you know that. Really, any one of these 5 could conceivably win this, but I think I'm leaning Pokemon Unite with Fantasian second. Genshin is very popular, don't get me wrong, and League of Legends is League of Legends, but Pokemon in a MOBA, it's gangbusters, and everybody loves it. So that's going to be my lean, and Fantasian's more of a personal pick, because that game is awesome. Best community support: Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Fortnite, or No Man's Sky. Now, I personally would vote for Fortnite because it's only one of these 5 that I play, but I think Final Fantasy XIV Online is going to get the vote, especially after the game, the Endwalker, which is the next expansion, was delayed by 2 weeks, and the video announcing it showed the executive producer of the game crying because he was so upset about it. Shows that he really cares about his community. I think it's going to score him some points here, as it should. Games for Impact. This is a category where games try to send a message or try to tell a deep story. I like this category a lot. Before Your Eyes, Boyfriend Dungeon, Chicory, Life is Strange, True Colors, or No Longer Home. I do think Life is Strange takes this category, but I am going to be hoping for Chicory as well. Either one of those games would be fine with me. Best Performance, which is a gender-neutral category, which picks 5 best performances of the year and nominates them for the award. We have Erica Mori as Alex Chen in Life is Strange: True Colors, Giancarlo Esposito as Anton Castillo in Far Cry 6, arguably the best part of that game, Jason E. Kelly as Colt Vaughn, Deathloop, Maggie Robertson as Lady Dimitrescu in Resident Evil Village, and Ozioma Akag, I think is how we said it, as Juliana Blake in Deathloop. All 5 of these are very good, but I'm going with Maggie Robertson. I think she left the most lasting impression with how that character took over the internet for a considerable amount of this year until that game released in May. So Maggie Robertson would be my choice there, with Jason E. Kelly right behind her in second place. Best Audio Design, we're looking at Deathloop, Forza Horizon 5, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, and Returnal. I loved RE Village's audio. Listening to that game with headphones on is absolutely terrifying, but I think Forza 5 takes this one as well. Forza Horizon 5's audio team is simply unmatched, and I think they're going to take the win here. Best Score and Music, Cyberpunk 2077, Deathloop, Nier Replicant version 1.224744871139, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Artful Escape. Now, this one depends on whether it includes every piece of music heard in the game or just the original scores. If it's just the original scores, it's going to Nier Replicant. If it includes every piece of music in the game, it should go to Guardians of the Galaxy, because that licensed soundtrack plus the original songs by Star-Lord are phenomenal. And that's what it should be. Best Art Direction, Deathloop, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and The Artful Escape. I think The Artful Escape actually takes this one. Nothing against the other 4 games, has beautiful art direction. But if it were me, this is the one category that I think The Artful Escape can take more than the others, and I would vote that way. Wouldn't be surprised if Psychonauts takes it, but I think The Artful Escape is going to be my pick here. Best Narrative, Deathloop, It Takes Two, Life is Strange: True Colors, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, Psychonauts 2. I'm going to go with Deathloop here. That story just blows people's minds every time that they experience it for the first time. That's going to be my choice here. Best Debut Indie, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Sable, The Artful Escape, The Forgotten City, and Valheim. This one's tough as well. All 5 of these games had a great showing this year. But I think I'm going to go towards Valheim, just because, much like Maggie Robertson in the Best Performance category, Valheim was a big part of a majority of this year. So I see that getting the nod here. Best Indie, 12 Minutes, Death's Door, Kenna Bridge of Spirits, Inscription, or Loop Hero. That's a 3 out of 5 for Devolver Digital. Good job by them. But I do think Kenna is going to take this one. I think Kenna is going to was one of the best games of the entire year, and I really do think it has a great chance to win this category. But Loop Hero, of the 3 from Devolver Digital, would be my pick of the 3 of them. Loop Hero, Death's Door, and Inscription in that order. And that's like a 10-9-8 or a 10-9.5-9. It's not a big difference, but that's how I would put it there. Best Ongoing Game, Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, Final Fantasy XIV Online, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. My bias says Fortnite, but I do think that Call of Duty Warzone is going to win this category. I just have a feeling. I feel like everybody plays Warzone, and most of the people in the jury are going to vote for it. So I'm rooting for Fortnite, but I don't think it's going to be Fortnite. Best Game Direction, Deathloop, It Takes Two, Returnal, Psychonauts 2, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I think once again this goes to Deathloop, just because of the way that game goes. You can tell that the direction of that game is solid. And then finally, Game of the Year 2021, Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. I think unlike last year, where there was a surefire number 1, this is going to win no matter what in The Last of Us Part 2, I think this year's a little more open. I think this year there's a little bit more of a chance for all 6 of these games. A little more even, a little more, little less clear-cut. Looking at the list the first time I saw it, my mind went to Metroid Dread. But then I realized that maybe not a lot of people on the jury are into that kind of game. So I had to go somewhere else, and I landed on Deathloop taking Game of the Year for Arcane and Bethesda. It Takes Two is supposedly very, very good, but I think the co-op aspect turned a lot of people off, so they wouldn't have played it. Metroid is difficult, like classically difficult, and some people just don't like hard games anymore. Psychonauts 2 might have been a little too weird for folks. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, as I understand it, the ending kind of fell off towards at the end of the game there. Didn't play it. And RE Village is really good, but I just don't see that overtaking Deathloop as Game of the Year. So if you're asking me, my pick for Game of the Year based on the Game Awards 2021 awards nominees is going to be Deathloop, but I could be wrong, and that's why we watch the show on December the 9th. Well, that and the plethora of game reveals. And with that, we are at the end of episode 74 of Cheesesteaks and Controllers, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. My name is Jason Finelli. I am the esports and gaming insider for the radio station Fox PHL The Gambler, and I am very, very appreciative that you took the time to listen to this podcast today. Hope you enjoyed the interviews that you heard earlier in the show. My thanks to Mike Sepso of Vindex for coming on and talking esports. My thanks to Jonathan Grahm of Compartes Chocolatier for talking about chocolate. First time I've ever done that. Hope it won't be the last. Next week, episode 75. Trying to have a big week, but we'll see what happens with Black Friday coming up right behind it. Maybe I skip a week and save it for the 4th. I don't know. But in the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic weekend, a fantastic week right behind it, and we will be back either next week or the week after with more of what you can find in this crazy gaming industry. Thank you, and good night.